Okay, so again, today what we're going to be doing is talking about currency conversion. So converting, for example, from New Zealand dollars to Australian dollars, and back and forth. So we're going to talk about how you can tell when you need to do each piece. And you've seen this before, most likely, but the biggest problem that students have is needing to know when to multiply and when to divide. And there's a very, very easy trick to tell you. Okay? So let's just look at some process. First, find the currency that is just one in the conversion chart. Now, usually you're going to have lots of currencies, and that's why I'm saying conversion chart. Sometimes it'll just give you one conversion. But one of them is going to say 1 New Zealand dollar or 1 US dollar. Or they may not even have a unit, because if it's a New Zealand dollar, they can just write it as New Zealand equals, right? But you know that if there's no number there, what do you assume it to mean? 1, right? So that means 1 New Zealand dollar. So say we had this. That's the one with the 1, right? Now, the other one is always going to have an amount, because you would never convert a dollar to a dollar. So the other one's going to have some other number, usually a decimal number. And conversion rates change constantly, but we're going to give you the conversion rate. You don't have to look it up. So we're going to give you the one we want you to use. But just look for the one that has no other number associated with it. Now, it might say New Zealand 1 or US 1. It depends on, in the book they like to put the ones, but a lot of times in other conversion charts they don't. Okay? That one is your key, right? That's the one that's going to tell you whether to multiply or divide. Okay? So, when you're thinking about conversions using these, it depends on which one is your 1. So that does everything. So, to convert, from that currency, and again, by that currency, I mean the one that has the 1 in it, right? You're simply going to multiply. Right? And you'll multiply by whatever conversion factor you have. Should have put that there. To convert to that currency, you're simply going to divide. Okay?
So by multiply, do you mean like multiply by the currency rate?
By the rate, the currency factor, the conversion factor. Okay? All right. And you'll see what those look like in just a second. And last but not least, if you don't have units, you have garbage. Literally will not even bother to grade it. Okay? So, if you don't put the units in, it's meaningless. 7 does not mean $7, right? I am going to pay you $1 million to wash my car. Pretty exciting, right? Till I tell you it's 1 million grains of sand. Who cares? Yeah? So, units matter, so make sure you're putting them in. Right? Okay. So it's all based on the one that has unit of what? 1. Excellent. So let's just go to your book, and we're going to look. Here we have exchange rates in this particular chart. So here are our exchange rates, and if you'll notice, New Zealand dollars is the 1 in all of these. Yes? And that's usually the way it is. They'll give you one currency where that's always the base currency, right? The one with the 1, and everything comes off of that. So if I'm converting from New Zealand dollars, I'm simply going to multiply by the appropriate conversion factor. And these are the conversion factors, right? Factors because you're multiplying with them. Yeah? Okay. So if I was converting from New Zealand dollars to pounds, for example, from New Zealand dollars, I would multiply or divide? Multiply, because it's the one with the 1, and I'm converting from that unit, okay, by whatever this conversion factor is, so 0.49. It's just a matter of plugging it into your calculator and then making sure you put the right units on there, right? And we'll go through a few examples of this. It's very simple. Okay, now, don't worry about the way they do it. They do it using proportions. That's dumb. There's no point in doing that. You just have to memorize which one. You could use a proportion if you got confused and you didn't remember which one's which. That will always set it up for you properly, but it's a lot harder to do. So don't worry about the proportions that they use. Let's just look at using it as multiply and divide. And remember, you're going to have a cheat sheet. So, find the unit that's 1. To convert from that unit, you multiply. To convert to that unit, you divide. Okay? And that's your cheat sheet. So let's look at number 1 there. We're going from New Zealand dollars to euros. Well, New Zealand dollars is my 1. So if I'm converting out of New Zealand dollars or from New Zealand dollars, right? Okay? So in order to do that, I'm going to need to what? Multiply. So how many New Zealand dollars do I have? 2,500. Yes? Times. And somebody want to read me the conversion factor from your book for the euros?
1 New Zealand dollar is 65 euros.
Okay, so 0.65 is my conversion factor. Multiply that out someone for me and give me that value with units, please.
1,625 euros.
Everyone agree?
Yeah.
How easy is your life right now? Okay. All right. Drop down to number 5. We're going from US dollars to New Zealand dollars. Which one's our base unit in our chart? New Zealand dollars, right? So we're converting to New Zealand dollars this time. So in other words, we're going back in the chart. Do you see that? If you look at the chart itself, to go from New Zealand dollars to another unit, we're going that way, to the right. But to get from one to back to New Zealand, we're going the other way, right? If you think of it that way, you can always keep in mind which one's going to be multiplied and which one to divide. Go to the right, you're multiplying. To the left, you're dividing. Make sense? So however you need to see it, that's the way you should look at it. So we're going from US dollars to New Zealand dollars. So that means we're going to take the number of US dollars and not multiply this time, but divide, right? And what is the conversion factor for US dollars? Sorry? 7.4. Okay, thank you. And do that division, and what do you get?
810.
And of course, you need the dollar symbol on there. Now, even better, because we're talking dollars to dollars, because they both use dollars, we could write New Zealand dollars. But we know that because it's right there. Yeah. If you wrote it somewhere else, if you were writing it down somewhere else, you might want to put New Zealand dollars, because dollars US and dollars New Zealand are different. Yeah? There's your answer. How easy is that? So, what I'm going to get you to do is work on a few of these so we can practice that, so you can find out whether you're going to be multiplying or dividing.